Achtung, the Vox of YouTube. It's me again, your pal Anani, and we're here today to talk about Westernization, my first quest. As you notice, Japan, as it says up here, is primitive. We are an uncivilized nation from the get-go. Now, for the very sparing few people from nations like Japan, Korea, China, and all these areas, do not be offended, that just kind of means unwesternized nations and is only referring to the time period. So, no debates in the comments about how civilized China was versus Europe in blah blah blah. Now, as you notice, our politics screen is a little bit different. Instead of having flat reforms here, we have military reforms and economic reforms, which are, in actuality, your technology in disguise. See this down here? This is your Westernization progress, and this is your technology research. Essentially what you do, you get points over time, they can increase and decrease by events. You get your reform selected, and once the progress you get adds up to 100%, then you Westernize. And this is much more convenient than the original Victoria 2, but we will go over that as well, since this is for people from both sides of the expansion pack. Now, since there's not very much I can tell you about this that I haven't just cleared, let me share some advice in a rare actual probable advice column. For the most part, the military reforms are the more now technologies. The technologies that are more useful to you when you're actually in the uncivilized process, because unless you use a reform, you don't actually get the associated technology. For instance, unless we had foreign weapons, we would not have flintlock rifles, and if you know, as you could probably have seen in the technology episode, if I had actually went over that kind of thing, you need flintlock rifles to make your basic infantry. So you would be stuck using irregulars, but on the other hand, do consider that once you westernize, no matter what, in the Army, the Navy, and, well yeah, just Army and Navy, you will automatically get the entire top row of technologies by default, and you get more depending on the period. In Commerce, you get 2 at random, Culture 2 at random, and Industry 1 at random. Well, actually, the last 3 more depend on the technologies you choose. In fact, all of them depend on the ones you choose all unwesternized, but those are the ones you get by base default. As you can see, we cannot research anymore because you have to westernize to be able to do so. Now, as I was saying, the military reforms are more for the here and now. They're more if you need a boost while in actual combat as an uncivilized nation. This is great for nations like Punjab, like Siam, that will be in, Japan of course, that will be in nigh constant warfare with people before, but it's actually not so useful to places like the Chinese substates with their giant massive armies. Do consider that once you start rebuilding, you still need to start rebuilding. You will have to break down all your irregulars and rebuild them into more accurate fighting units. If you are to choose this tree, your forts won't be too helpful. That'll be more of a waste of things than anything. So, what I'm trying to get across here, for military reforms, it's if you need a boost now, but even then use discretion. Use constructions and trainings for larger nations where you can't as easily build irregulars, or infantry, from your irregulars. And use the actual foreign weapons and foreign naval units for actual proper navies and militaries elsewhere. The economic reforms are a bit more touchy. This is where China really shines. This is for places like, again, Siam, Dainam, Luang Prabang if you want to go down that route, the Arabic states. That will be in less constant warfare. This is more for the betterment of your proper nation. This is going to be where the real money comes in, but the downside is, for most nations, not including Japan here for some reason, well, because of high literacy, I guess, they're actually going to slow you down on economic reforms by your upper house. So you're going to have much more expensive economic reforms. But on the other hand, unless you really mess up with those party national focuses, you shouldn't ever really have a weapon that drags you down on military. Anyway, land reforms give you farming and efficiency. This is really useful because it will get you my favorite technology, freedom of trade, right off the bat, no questions asked. Always, 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 always get land reforms because it is good, it helps your economy like crazy, and it's so good. The rest of these are also pretty good. In fact, there's none of these that I can really say are that useless or not worth the wait. Save perhaps international debt, depending on how well you can manage your economy and other reforms you're going with here. In particular, it's good to end your unwesternized era with a bang. The industrializations and transportation systems reforms will be very, very useful for you out of the bat, because transport systems will fill all your capital region entirely with railroads. If you're one region big, like Crimea, Tunisia, Tripoli, Hedges, then that will be really useful because it will make your economy boom. The industrializations will start making well, first of all, this one is kind of needed by default. This one will build a fabric factory and give you water wheel power, enabling you to build more factories, provided you have the technologies to do so, which will basically mean that you can construct like the very, very default factories and nothing else, and there's sparing few of them. You can also get industrial construction, which will get you a cement factory, which, while that's not much, it's still not one of the default factories, and it's very useful because cement is high price. But we'll be talking more about resources and factories, and of course production, next time. So, if you folks want to see the reform in action, then continue. If not, this is going to be the last thing we're going to do today. Should be kind of obvious, but once the reform becomes unlocked, as you can see here, your little gavel will glow. That means reforms can happen. Yeah, as you can see from the decision, we got land reform, which makes Japan really nice. But I think we need some officer training. Boom! Look how our bar went up. Every reform is worth a different amount of percentage, so always make sure to look at that. The industrializations are really big hitters. They can get you easily half your bar. So if you're going to be a very major economical nation, do look into that. That means you, Japan and China. So with that being said, there's only one more thing to discuss to you now. How to do it in regular Victoria 2. As you can see, a technology has been unlocked. Anyway, in the regular Victoria 2, you need a few technologies plus 45 prestige and 50 military power. So, your technologies will be post-Napoleonic thought, post-Nelsonian thought, flintlock rifles, private banks, freedom of trade, the rights of man, water wheel power, and the publishing industry, as well as the amount of prestige and military power. Japan gets it slightly easier. They do not have to have the rights of man or freedom of trade, I believe, though it might just be rights of man, and they need less prestige and military power due to their special Meiji Restoration decision. And one last thing is a tip from me. If you are China pictured here, as you can see in the House Divided, you are made up of sub-states. Little vassal states are attached to you that other great powers can fear for their own sakes. So if you get in war with them, they can't really do anything. While these can be nice in their own way, do note, you'll want to westernize like you're on fire. I mean, westernize like you're on fire, and Westernization is a bucket of water. Get there ASAP, because you will annex all your little states except for Korea and Tibet, which will stay as puppets. Otherwise, you'll just be carved up into tinier and tinier substates before colonization begins, and that's just not a very good thought. So, that's all for Westernization. Good night, folks.